Let's talk about internal boundaries, particularly voting districts in the United States. So the United States conducts a census every 10 years to count the population, and it collects a lot of other demographic data as well. And this data is crucial for drawing up the voting districts so that each district has roughly equal populations. Redistricting is a process of drawing new boundaries for the electoral districts. We can see here in this map all the different electoral districts within the country, and they all supposed to have relatively equal populations. And the people within these districts will elect people for legislative bodies, like the House of Representatives. So it's very, very important that each district has roughly the same population so that representation in the federal government remains fair and equal. The census is used to determine how many seats each state will have in the United States House of Representatives. So a state that has a lot of voting districts, like Texas, Florida, or California, are going to have a lot more representatives because they have a lot more people in the country than states like North Dakota or South Dakota or Minnesota. They're going to have less representatives in Texas or Florida. And we call this proportional representation. The number of seats are in proportion to your population. Census results are used to examine demographic changes, and they're used to redraw district boundaries through redistricting. That's a key term. Population growth leads to smaller districts, but a lot more districts within a state, and vice versa. There's population decline. We're going to look at larger districts, and of course, we're going to see that these larger districts may take up an entire state, as we see here with North and South Dakota. Let's look at a practice FRQ. Identify one difference in the scale of analysis among the districts shown in the graphs here. So we can see here a bunch of different voting districts. We're looking at the populations and the population densities between them here. So we can see here we have Delaware at large, New York's 13th district, Virginia's 8th district, Colorado's 3rd district. The number of districts vary per states because they have different populations. But some of these states, they only have one district, so the district takes up the entire state, like Delaware or Wyoming. So some districts represent entire states, whereas other districts represent parts of states. So the scale of analysis can vary depending on where you're looking at. The at-large districts in Delaware and Wyoming represent entire states. And another answer you could have said here is the districts in New York, Virginia, Texas, and Colorado. Those 4 states represent portions of their state. They don't represent the entire state like Delaware or Wyoming does. Now let's talk about a process called gerrymandering, which is where you draw electoral district boundaries in a way that deliberately benefits a particular political party or group. So you could clump them all together, clump a particular political party like the Democratic Party into one district so all the other districts are Republicans, or you can disperse the Republicans across the different districts so they don't have any majority. There's a lot of ways to conduct gerrymandering, and we're going to look at a few of these, but it's pretty easy to recognize because the districts are often distorted or have very complex shapes, like these 3 here: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Illinois. They're very scattered, they're very distorted. There's a lot of different little trails on the ends of them. They don't really look like anything. They just look like they drew random, like a toddler drew them. That's what gerrymandering. One type of gerrymandering is called packing, and that's where you pack the opposing party together into one district to minimize their influence in other districts. And we can see this in the 12th Congressional District of North Carolina, as well as the 5th Congressional District in Florida here, where they packed a bunch of Republicans together to minimize their influence in other voting districts to maximize Democratic influence in Florida. Another form of gerrymandering is called cracking, and this is where you disperse the opposing party into the other districts so that they don't have majority in any of these districts or have majority in very few of them. So you can see here in Ohio, they dispersed the Democratic Party so that the Republicans were the majority in most of the districts. We can see that in Texas that the Democratic influence went down after they redrew the districts because they dispersed them when they redrew the districts here. They cracked them. Let's look at a past FRQ from 2024. Explain how the processing of redistricting may be used to decrease an ethnic community's political power. So we're really looking at packing, cracking, and other forms of gerrymandering. So they may gerrymander in a way that negatively affects ethnic groups if the districts are drawn to minimize the number of ethnic group voters in an area, so they don't have the majority within a district. Redistricting or gerrymandering can reduce the representation or political power that a community has by cracking an ethnic area, an ethnic group into 2 or more voting districts. And when we think of cracking, we think of dispersing them so they don't have a majority in any a district here. This one's about packing, where you limit the representation or political power of ethnic groups and allow for a greater number of political power or representation in surrounding districts by different groups, because you are going to just pack the ethnic group into one district. So all the other remaining voting districts are of different groups that can vote in a different way. Let's look at some more responses here. Redistricting or gerrymandering can result in a candidate from the ethnic community being geographically eliminated from running in that district, reducing the community's representation. Redistricting or gerrymandering can intentionally decrease voting access or participation because of the changing boundaries of the district. So people may say that their districts change and they may want to vote a certain behavior. That's maybe the minority view or the minority vote. And they may not do that anymore because they may see that it's no use or just unrealistic here. So there's a lot of social and political effects of redistricting and gerrymandering. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really does help me out, and it costs $0. I have some free resources for you in the description down below if you'd like to use them. If you have any AP Human Geography related questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below the video or send me a message on Discord. I'll see you guys in the next video though. Adios.